Okay, so how's everybody doing? All right, I just realized that I haven't actually done an episode on cab control or how I power my locomotives or how I run them, which method I use. And so I thought I would devote just a little bit of time on and just share with you what I use and why I use it. Um, just to get this out of the way, like this DC transformer, there's nothing wrong with these, right? Like they work perfectly great. There's something about wave control and the smoothness of the absence of speed steps with DCC. It's kind of neat when you've been using DCC for a long time and you go try a DC wave transformer. It feels kind of cool. Like it's still really a good way to operate, especially on the shelf layout, right? Like when you're on a lower budget and you can still run two locomotives together. But predominantly, I only usually use one switcher at a time. So I just wanted to say that, these old Tech 2, Tech 4, this is a Tech 4. Like I think I picked this up for 20 bucks at a show years ago or something or wherever. Like they're dirt cheap, right? And I can plug this into my DCC layout in 2 minutes and then plug the DCC back in because all the turnouts are power routed, so it works fine with DC and DCC. So yeah, so usually when I get a locomotive and I want to break it in before I convert it to a DCC sound decoder, I'll just run it under DC, back and forth, high, low throttle, back and forth, just sort of run it in a bit before I, get the locomotive and implant a DCC decoder. But anyway, it's just an old Tech 4 MRC 260. These things are pretty much a dime a dozen, and they work great. Okay. Now, I just want to talk to you about DCC for a moment and what I use. Like, I use this cab control right here, and this is one of the main staples of DCC, this unit, the NCE Power Cab. I'll tell you one of the reasons, well, there's more than one reason. I think for the money, this is the best DC system there is. There's no argument. Like, you can buy these brand new now for, I don't know, they're about $200 Canadian, like I've seen them. You might even see them less. They come with a 2 amp power supply, which I can run 5 sound equipped locomotives on this layout with this unit. No problem. They're not hauling, heavy freight long trains. They're not all 5 MU together, running full sound. They can be idling on the side or cooking, if you want to use the term. And this power cab has no problem, and it's all contained in one. It's really easy to use, right? I mean, I've had Digitrax in the past, and they're fantastic. Their LocalNet, I think, is just what a great system that is, in many ways. And every system has its caveats, but there's no need for Digitrax on a shelf layout. They're great for club layouts and for larger layouts. But if you're going to run a shelf layout, this is even overkill. But the user friendly of this, for those of you that aren't really tech savvy and you don't have one of these and you want to get into just a couple of sound equipped locomotives, consider the NCC Power Cab. And I'm not getting any royalties, or this is not a plug for NCC for any monetary reasons. It's just simply one of the best cab controls there is. And let me just tell you a quick story about this cab control. I sold this cab control 20 years ago. I think it was, well, maybe, no, not, actually, no, sorry. I sold this cab control 10 years ago, maybe 12 now, to a guy that was into N-scale. I had gotten out of it because I went back to school, so I sold off everything. I needed every penny I could get for textbooks, right? Anyway, so I met the guy a few years back, and he has this big N-scale. I went over to his house. He had this sitting there, and it was all smoke damaged and sitting on the side. And I said, "Hey, man, what's up with this?" He says, "Oh, I had a bench fire. And I almost lost the garage and the layout, but they got the fire out in time." but the superheated gas went down his layout, like melted his whole roster of cars. There were these sort of lumps of plastic. Like, what a crying shame. But anyway, this was sitting on the bottom below the, like just a level below, and it was all black and smoke damaged. And I said, hey man, you still want this thing? I'll trade you for it. So I think I painted him a locomotive or something like that, and he gave the system back to me. And you know, I took the whole thing apart and immersed it in a isopropyl alcohol bath. Like, it just stunk too, right? It was just grimed out and blackened. And this is what came out of it. Like, I put it back together and it works perfectly. So there you have it, right? Like, what a testimony, right, to NCE Power Cab. Yes, it's only the 1.28 version, but it runs everything fine. I can run any locomotive, do all the programming, CVs, everything, run all the features, and I don't have any problems with it. So thank you very much, NCE. You make a great product. Anyway, so as some of you know, you can run all your DCC locomotives, and like, I really like the feature where you can just enter the loco number simply, right? Enter, select, and then just start the locomotive. There's all the other features like coupler clank and air brakes and all the abilities to program the decoder, which adds a whole nother level of immersion factor to your shelf layout. I mean, this is sort of part of the reason, right? Like, why we do shelf layouts. They're self-contained. You don't wake up with any anxiety looking over your shoulder about when am I going to get around to finishing that other section. The whole railroad feel or reason or passion that you have is fully served on a layout just like this, as we've spoken before, right? And then there's, of course, Lock Sound's throttle hold, where you can just maintain the momentum and dial back the prime mover, right? So, if you're considering like a control system for your shelf layout, choose whatever you want, DC, DCC, but for the money and for the fun factor, I would buy another one of these like today. Like, when this thing gives up the ghost, and I don't know if it ever will, it's 20 years now, been through a fire and going strong. I'd buy another one, hands down. And as far as like, the new proto throttles and all that, those are great, and all the best to you that have them. I think that they're just another level of immersion, I really do. But I don't want another link in the chain right now, and I don't need to spend another $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 to set it all up in order to have fun with my layout. So please don't recommend that throttle to me, because I'm not interested. Okay? The NCE Power Cab does it all. Does everything I need to do. It served me well, and I'm sure it will in many years to come. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great day.